11 o'clock p.m. on the night of February 28, 2026, the previous month. A US Navy fighter jet took off from the USS Harry Truman, and on the parallel side, the Israeli F-35 Raptors were closing in the Iranian airspace. And after a few hours of this operation, Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei was declared dead.
Iranian state media has confirmed its supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei has been killed in his compound after the US and Israel engaged in large-scale strikes across Iran. State media reported that his daughter, son-in-law and grandchild were also killed.
This message shook the world. Stock markets crashed, oil prices spiked, and everything came to a halt. And then Iran's IRGC, Islamic's Revolutionary Guard Corps, had given a radio message through VHF radio. What was the message contained about? The message read, "Vessel passage through the Strait of Hormuz is not allowed. Any ship attempting transit will be considered a legitimate target." Yes, the message was simple. If any ship crosses the Strait of Hormuz, it is going to be targeted as a legitimate target, and no ships are allowed to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. And within 24 hours, not one, not two, not 10 or not 20 ships, my dear friends, literally 150 oil tankers were strangled. They were just awaiting for the opening of the passage. They were anchored. Yes, 150 anchored ships through the Strait of Hormuz. Imagine, it's a traffic in the passage. Biggest shipping brands, I can say. Biggest shipping brands like Maersk, or I can say Maersk, CMA, and Hapag-Lloyd, all were strangled. They were just waiting for some good hope to pass the strait. Understand a terminology called a choke point. Don't get fear or don't get trembled by listening to this word called choke point. It's a very important strategy known as a terminology in geopolitics. We are going to use this in our future videos and even in this video a lot. So please understand this concept way clearly. A choke point is a narrow passage which, when blocked, will pause or will stop the entire passage of ships or entire passage through that channel. I can say that in simple words, a narrow passage, if blocked, stops literally everything. Yes, understand it as a simple one. If there is a small narrow road and there's an accident happened, then what happens? Nothing happens. You are unable to pass the road, and this is called a choke point. But a choke point terminology is majorly used in maritime trade. Yes, in maritime trade. So this is what choke point means, and Strait of Hormuz is one of a choke point. Now you might ask, Rohan, how many choke points are there among the world? There are n number of choke points, my dear friends. There are n number. There are almost not uncountable. But out of that, let me list out some 7 of the straits which are termed to be the most important choke points. There are n number of choke points, my dear friends. Out of that, let me list out 7 of the important ones. The Strait of Hormuz, which we are going to discuss in this case study, it is also a choke point. The Strait of Ba-bal, Mande, which we are going to discuss deep in this case study in the later this video. The Strait of Gibraltar, the Strait of Gibraltar, the Strait of Malacca. The Strait of Malacca is almost known to 80% of the people in the world because there are many videos related to Strait of Malacca. And Suez Canal, you know, the 3 years ago's blockade of the evergreen ship which shook the world once again with the energy crisis. The Panama Canal, Mozambique Channel, and many others. So these are the 7 of them. Out of that, we are going to discuss only 2. That is the Strait of Hormuz and the Strait of Bab-el Mande. Now, let's get deep into this. Now you may say that, Rohan, 7 of them, at least they contribute towards 10% or 20%. My dear friends, when I was researching through this content for this video, I found out something strange. Out of these 7 straits, they didn't impact 10% or 20%. They literally impacted 80% of the global maritime trade. You heard that right. Not 18, it is 80%. How much did it affect? How is it going to affect with the Strait of Hormuz? My dear friends, let me give you a small statistics. Yes, a very small. Oil on Friday was just on a price tag with $73 United States dollar. That's on Friday. It's considered an average because $73 is not considered to be a big one or a small one. It's an average, it's a medium ratio. But Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 3 days passed. Let's take the stats of Tuesday. In Tuesday, the numbers are literally shocking. It is $100. Yes, $100 was the cost of oil on Tuesday. And then it hit $110. And at its peak, oil touched $126. 73, 126. Such a huge gap. Oh my god. This impacted the most nations in the planet. Almost all the shipping companies, almost all the people who are related with each and everything of economics and geopolitics were impacted with this. Yes. You may say, Rohan, it's somewhere. It's in the Middle East. We don't care. India, we are cool. We are enough. My dear friends, this directly or indirectly is affecting your own pocket. Your own pocket? What are you speaking, Rohan? Yes, my dear friends. When you speak about something related to geopolitics, it is not far away. It is directly impacting your own wallet or your own country. Yes, your grocery bills go up. Your oil prices will go up. The consumption of your petrol or combustion vehicles go up. Then your wallet will suffer. It's not the world's problem. It's your own wallet's problem. So please take care of this and be informative on each and everything what is going on in the whole world. Now, what are the questions? What is Strait of Hormuz? How is the Strait of Hormuz turning into the biggest crisis in 2026? And what are the lessons that India should learn from this energy crisis? Now you may say, Rohan, you are speaking about Strait of Hormuz. Where is the location, or how can we get to know the location of the Strait of Hormuz? My dear friends, well, don't worry, you are in the right channel, Rohan, because you get to know all the geopoliticals, business and economics onto your screens. Now you have the Iranian map and the Oman map. On between these two, to the north of Strait of Hormuz is Iran, and to the south of Strait of Hormuz lies Oman's. And for your kind information, Oman's main island is different from the Oman's which you can see there. They are just small island, not the mainland of Oman. And some parts of UAE hit the Strait of Hormuz. So United Arab Emirates, Oman and Iran are the neighbors of Strait of Hormuz, I can say. To keep that simple, I want to explain it to you in a very simple way. The 33-kilometer wide strait, yes, at the narrowest point of the Strait of Hormuz is just 33 kilometers. Only 33? You may say, Rohan, what are you speaking? It's not only 33. A small city or at least a medium size district can sit in it. Well, my dear friends, 33 kilometers is a big number. But when compared to the usable area among the Strait of Hormuz, it is just 3 kilometers. Now, what would you say? From 33 kilometers to 3 kilometers. From unused and everything of the part of the Strait of Hormuz to the only passage used by the maritime trade. From 33 kilometers to 3 kilometers. It's a major difference. 33 and 3. And not just that, my dear friends. You may say, Ron, you are saying just 3 kilometers. Then how much of oil is passing through the strait every day? You may say, hardly somewhere 40 to 50,000 barrels a day. My dear friends, even I thought the same. But I was literally shocked to see these numbers. I was literally staggered. I stammered when I thought of these numbers once in my brain. Now let me give those numbers to you. It is 20 million barrels a day. Yes, 2 crore barrels a day is the amount of oil or amount of crude which passes through the Strait of Hormuz every single passing day. 2 crore barrels, it's a big one. Now you get it right. What is the importance of Strait of Hormuz? I don't want to waste your time a lot. Let me come to the point straightly. How many ships are passing through this? Or how many vessels are passing the Strait of Hormuz every day? On an average, at least 138 ships pass the Strait of Hormuz every single day. Now you may say, Rohan, instead of just buying from those countries, can't we buy from something called as Saudi Arabia and all? My dear friends, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Qatar, UAE, Oman and all lie towards the left of Strait of Hormuz. They all lie in the Persian Gulf, or I can say the Persian region. Yes. So, we have any other entrance or exit, Rohan? No, absolutely no. The entrance and exit for the Persian Gulf is just the Strait of Hormuz. And the Strait of Hormuz connects from the Persian Gulf to the Arabian Sea. This middle traverse passage is by the Strait of Hormuz. Oh my god. Rohan, it is now shocking. It is getting intense. Say me what is coming next. My dear friends, stay tuned in this video because we are going to go deep and have it cut short and explain it to you simply that it is understood in a simple way that you can explain to any others. Because you are in the right channel, you don't miss anything. Just subscribe and hit the notification so that you don't miss something big which comes every Saturday. Now you may say, can't we bypass the Strait of Hormuz? Well, partially, but partially not. We have something called as East-West pipeline from Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia's own pipeline is named after East-West pipeline. This East-West pipeline goes from the Red Sea port of Yanbu towards Saudi Arabia. This accommodates a little number of barrels every single day. And not just that, UAE has a pipeline from UAE to Fujairah. It goes from Gulf of Oman. It is known as the UAE Fujairah pipeline. So both combined, the Saudi Arabian East-West pipeline and the UAE's Fujairah pipeline, both combined accommodate just 5 to 7 million barrels of crude every single day. Rohan, how much did you say of Strait of Hormuz? It is 20 million. So it's a deficit, Rohan. Yes, my dear friends, it's a deficit. It's a deficit of staggering 13 million crude barrels every single day. So don't we have any other bypass? No, unfortunately no, my dear friends. We don't have any other bypass. So the dependence on Strait of Hormuz by any other country is staggeringly high. Now you may say, Ron, let's leave. That is a Middle Eastern problem, or it connects the UAE, or it connects the US, it connects the EU, European Union, United Arab Emirates or United States. My dear friends, I thought that this was a Middle Eastern problem, but it is affecting Indians because of the oil prices. But not just that, oil prices are not just staggeringly increasing just like that. Because you and me, even when I didn't go with the case study data, I thought the major oil from this Strait of Hormuz goes through some countries like Western countries like United States, Canada, or European countries like French, Germany, or etc. But the numbers are completely different. My dear friends, out of the Strait of Hormuz, can you guess how much percent Asia consumes? You may say, 10% of the Strait of Hormuz oil is being consumed by Asia. Or some may say 20 or 30. I thought 40 at least. No, it is not at all closing to the number what I want to speak to you. The original staggering number is 84%. Yes, not 18, 84%. So, if there are 100 barrels, for example, 100 barrels are coming out of Strait of Hormuz every single day, example. Out of that, 84 barrels are consumed by Asians. Remaining 16 is being consumed by some others. But 84 is just only of damn Asian countries. So, Asian countries include Russia, China, India, South Korea, Japan, many others. So let's get into the numbers right away. Out of 84%, let's come to a specific country called Japan. Oh, Japan, I hear something called companies like Nintendo, Sony, tech giants. Or I can say Japan is way faster, 50 years ahead in technologies. Yes, my dear friends, I appreciate that. Japan is way ahead. But out of that, 95% of its crude, you mean Japan's crude, comes from Strait of Hormuz. Yes, from Saudi Arabia, Iran, Qatar, and many others. So what do you want to say? We have technologies. Japan has technologies. But to run that, we need power, we need battery, we need charge. Where does it come from? It comes from energy. So if 94% comes from Strait of Hormuz, just imagine. It is going to be a nightmare, I know, but just imagine. If some of the other country or if Iran itself blocked the Strait of Hormuz, Japan will fall, Japan oil prices spike, Japan will die, Japan will hit the biggest energy crisis, Japan's poverty increases, and no technology comes close. Now you are getting right. A strait can kill many lives. Yes, my dear friends, it is absolutely dramatic. Or it's absolutely, I cannot name that because these numbers are literally above my expectations. Now let's come to South Korea. North Korea is there, but let me take South Korea because South Korea imports more. In South Korea, 60% of its oil prices or oil crude comes directly from Strait of Hormuz. Another big one. Now you may say, Rohan, Japan is a small country and South Korea is a small country according to land area. Okay, my dear friends, I believe that. It's a small country when compared to land area. But when it comes to countries like China and India, they are not at all small. Population is high. India is ranked 1, China is ranked 2, and land area, they are high. So let me come with China, the manufacturing giant of the world. 40%, staggering 40% of which oil crude comes directly from the Strait of Hormuz, my dear friends. So imagine, just imagine again, because geopolitics is all about imagining. If there is a war between China and US, yes, China and US, imagine if United States blocks the Strait of Hormuz. China's economy cripples down. China's oil prices spike up. China's factories shut down. China will be hit with the biggest energy crisis ever. That's the end of the US-Chinese war. So, Hormuz, again an important one. Let's not waste time. Let's come to our own motherland, our own India, Bharat Mata. Let me speak about some stats regarding to India. India's daily crude imports via Hormuz is literally 2.52%, in the sense 2.52 million barrels, or it may reach 2.7 million barrels. Yes, 2.5 million barrels to 2.7 million barrels is the amount of crude that India imports daily via Hormuz. Yes, 2.5 to 2.7 million. Rohan, how much does it accompany to the India's overall imports? It is staggering 50%. Yes, 50% of the India's crude comes directly from Strait of Hormuz. Just imagine, my dear friends, what happens if this happens to India. India's situation will be same as I said with the China. Now, you may ask, why is Iran or Tehran holding this dominance over the Strait of Hormuz? Tehran is the capital of Iran. Why is it accompanying so much dominance on the Strait of Hormuz? My dear friends, the answer is way more simple than we think. The answer is the Iran's geography. I can call it Iranian geography. Yes, to the north of the Strait of Hormuz, in the map you can see that the north of the Strait of Hormuz is just Iran's borders. Oh. The entire north of the Strait of Hormuz is accompanied by Iran. Then it has major dominance over it. Absolutely. And what has Iran debuted on it? What has Iran stated regarding the Strait of Hormuz? Let me read it out for you. If our oil does not pass, the oil of others shall not pass the Strait of Hormuz. This is the words said by the Iran. Yes. What does it say? If Iran's price of oil spikes up, or if Iran's oil does not pass through the Strait of Hormuz, if somebody blocks it, then Iran will not allow any other country's oil to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, it is a big question or a big trembling message to the world, stating that if Iran is being touched, the world's oil is crushed. That is literally. I can even say one more. If Iran oil spikes, the world oil dies. I want to give you accurate stats because my viewers or my subscribers doesn't want the things or assumptions. Let me give you the same statements which are said by Helma Croft. Who is Helma Croft? Helma Croft, Global Head of Commodity Strategy at RBC Capital Markets. What has she stated? She has stated that all Iran had to do was several drone strikes in the vicinity of the Strait of Hormuz, and all of a sudden, insurers and the shipping companies decide that it is unsafe to traverse through the S-curve. S-curve is known as the Strait of Hormuz. So she meant to say that Iran didn't want the biggest naval base to strike the Strait of Hormuz. It just wanted some of the drones or some of the small missiles to be blasted across the vicinity of the Strait of Hormuz, and it will create a blockade in the Strait of Hormuz. Now just tell me, the insurers who own these ships, who insure the ships, will they agree to pass their ships through a war zone? Why will they? Absolutely no. That's the reason the Helma Croft, she said that is the end and that's the start of the energy crisis the world will ever imagine of. Operation Epic Fury happened. We have discussed about February 28, 2026. That was a part of an Operation Epic Fury. It's a joint military operation conducted by United States and Israel. Yes, this devastated many of lives across Iran. It targeted Iran's base camps, Iran's military camps, Iran's nuclear sites, Iran's mines, Iran's major base camps throughout, spread across hundreds of miles in deep parts of Iran. They were hit. Now, what is happening? Just the same message. The blockade of Hormuz. This is not just a one-time thing. Iran has not debuted just in 2026. Iran has already debuted this same thing in 2011, 2013. And many other times, Iran has already debuted that if anything happens to my own country, I will block the Strait of Hormuz. The same message is expected by the entire world, my dear friends. So this is not just a game which is being played in 2026. So now you understand how one strait impacts the world. I don't call this even as a choke point. It's a choke point, but I would likely to call a lifeline of the world. Just imagine one state is dependent. I mean, millions of lives are dependent on just on one strait. Wow, it is already horrible to imagine this. Now you may say, Rohan, this 2026 energy crisis is the only one which happened? No. There are some more things which have already happened. Let me give you some. Suez Canal 1956 crisis. Yes, it impacted 10% of the global supply of oil. Let me say 1973 Arab oil embargo disruption. It impacted 7% of the global oil supply. But how much has it impacted, Rohan? In 2026, the energy crisis of Iranian disruption towards the Strait of Hormuz has impacted staggering 20%. Yes, 20% of global oil supply. Now you know what I said about the Strait of Ba-bal Mande. To make things worse, Houthis in Yemen have blocked this. This is a passage from Red Sea to the Arabian Sea. It connects the Mediterranean Suez Canal to the Red Sea and then to Arabian Sea. And Houthis have blocked this. So the Ba-bal Mande Strait and the Strait of Hormuz, both are shut down. Not even one vessel can traverse these straits. So it is clear that nothing is going to happen such easily now. You know what? Out of all of this, Iran played one more thing. China had played a wild card. Yes, China had played a wild card. What did Iran do for this? Iran declared that it is going to open the Strait of Hormuz. Oh, now you might think, done. The problem is solved. The operations, everything worked out. Everything is done. But there comes a twist. Iran says the terms and conditions apply. Yes, Iran said that China and other allies means friends in geopolitical terminology, China and other allies of Iran have the right to pass through Strait of Hormuz, and Iran is going to traverse them easily. But what about with allies of Israel, and what about with the condition of United States? They are not low, yet still the blockade continues. Now, India played a neutral strategy. India nor supported Israel, nor supported Iran, nor supported to anyone, but had both friendships towards Israel, Iran. That's great to the India's global strategies, and that made Iran's passage clear to Indian ships, and that made India's 2 ships come into the Indian territory. So we are at least safe for now from this energy crisis. So now let's come to the point directly, my dear friends. Yes, let's come to the point directly. What are the lessons that India should learn from this case study? The lesson number 1. Energy security is national security. I repeat it. Energy security is the national security. Many people say India is big. India is becoming a superpower. India is going to join the superpower category as United States, China, Russia, and many others. But I say India is not. Because India's 95% of the crude is sold with other countries. Yes, other countries supply oil to India, and then India makes 95% of its oil. Or else India is done. So, at least I don't say 100% should be produced in India itself. I say at least a percentage, at least 35 to 50% of the Indian demand should be met by our own Indian productions, Indian producers I call them, so that we will have an upper hand on our own energy, so we don't go into control of others. At least we are met with our own demand supply. The lesson number 2. Geography still rules in the age of internet. Geography still rules in the age of internet. How? We are in the AI era. We are in the internet era. Just imagine if Iran didn't have that specific geography towards the Strait of Hormuz. Today this energy crisis wouldn't have hit. The war wouldn't have been started. But what is going on? It's just Iran's geography which is playing a checkmate card or checkmate rule to rule the entire globe. So geography still makes a upper hand over the internet era. Lesson number 3. Cheap weapons can close the most expensive choke points. In the video, we have already discussed that Helima Croft has already said that Iran had to do some drone strikes in the vicinity of the Strait of Hormuz, and it's done. The blockade is created. So that itself come to a point. So Iran didn't want a big, huge funded naval base. It didn't wanted crores of rupees worth submarines or naval ships. It just wanted some drone strikes and some small missile hits. And that is the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Because insurers and the shipping companies don't think of passing towards the battlefield. They want a safe gameplay, the safe vicinity, safe environment. So that itself says how important is Strait of Hormuz. I hope I have solved all of your questions. In this 20 to 25 or 30 minutes video, we have discussed all of the things. How is Strait of Hormuz important? How is Iran having the dominance on Strait of Hormuz? How is it going to impact the entire world? How is it impacting the Indian and some of the Asian countries? How is it directly proportional to your wallet? And that itself says we have even discussed the 3 lessons that India should learn or India should take from this geographical case study or geopolitical case study. My dear friends, when I was researching, it took me hours. It took me countless hours of research, countless hours of pre-production, countless hours after production. I can say post-production. All I need is just your support, your motivation, your blessings. And that can be achieved so that more videos can be arrived. As I discussed 7 choke points to you, those videos are coming in the near future. I'm going to discuss all of the states, all of the choke points, all of the global shifts, economic shifts, geopolitical strategies, business empires. The main objective of this channel is to break down complex problems into the simplest ones, to make each and everyone understand. And that itself is the objective of this channel. My dear friends, just like, share, subscribe and hit the bell icon. Because if you don't hit, it is not just going to impact you, it's going to impact me. Because it's my motivation to make more such content. So, just subscribe and hit the bell icon to not miss something big every Saturday. Every Saturday we will be coming up with something big of business, geopolitics and economics. Thank you very much. Meet you in the next one. Until then, bye-bye.